Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana zidna ilman ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We are going to continue the topic we started in our last class, the types of sentences, anwa'ul jumla. We have been studying all during the class the two types of sentences, mainly the ismiya and fi'liya, easily identifiable by looking at the beginning of the sentence. If it starts with a noun, then it is a jumla ismiya, and in that case we are looking for mubtada and khabar in it. And if it starts with a fi'l, whether it is a fi'l mudari, fi'l madi, or fi'l amr, then we classify it as a jumla fi'liya. And in that case, of course, we are looking for fail, the file, and optionally a maf'ulun bihi, depending upon the type of the fail, if it is transitive or not. What we are also now starting to look at is the i'rab for the jumla. Okay, and when we look at it, the jumla from that perspective, there are two main types of scenarios we have to deal with. One, on the left hand side, we have what we call the laha mahallun min al i'rab, meaning a sentence has i'rab in the overall with respect to some other sentence. Okay, and what is the condition for that? And that's what I've highlighted here. If the sentence is used in place of a singular word which has i'rab, then the sentence has the same i'rab. Okay, and we covered this part last time, and a simple example to look at here is we have two sentences. The first one is Hamidun Mudarrisun. Hamid is a teacher, versus another sentence where we have Hamidun Yudarrisu fil madrasati sanawiyati. So in the first sentence we have Mubtada Hamid and Mudarrisun is the khabar. In the second one we have Mubtada Hamid and a whole jumla yudarrisu fi madrasati sanawiyati is coming as a khabar. So this whole jumla yudarrisu fi madrasati sanawiyati is in the place of a singular word which is mudarrisun. So because mudarrisun is a khabar and it is marfu, then we say, well, this whole, if a jumla is used instead of a singular word, then this jumla has i'rab, and its i'rab are the same which are for the singular word, which in this case will be fi mahalli raf'in. So yudarrisu fi madrasati sanawiyati is a jumla fi'liya fi mahalli raf'in khabar li hamid. Okay, so that's a simple example, and then we looked at all the different categories of where a sentence can have i'rab. And when we talk about i'rab, we normally look at three different cases. In the case of noun, fi mahalli raf'in, fi mahalli nasbin, and fi mahalli jarrin. Okay, and we categorized under each one of them the scenarios where a jumla can be used. For example, in the case of fi mahalli raf'in, we have the khabar for the mubtada. Okay, so example being Allahu yastahzi'u bihim. Okay, so Allahu is the mubtada, and then yastahzi'u bihim is a jumla fi'liya fi mahalli raf'in khabar. Okay, because again, khabar is we can have a khabar for a singular word. When a jumla comes as a khabar, then it has the same i'rab. Okay, we can also have a khabar, a jumla coming as a khabar for inna or any of its sisters. Okay, inna allaha ya'murukum an tazbahu baqara. So that this ya'murukum an tazbahu baqara, that's a complete fi'liya, jumla fi'liya, coming as a khabar for inna, while Allah is the ismu inna in this case. So we looked at all of them, and then we also have the examples of fi mahalli nasbin. Hal, for example, is we know is always mansub when it's a singular word, but when a jumla is used, then jumla will have the same i'rab as singular word when the jumla is coming as a hal. So waja'u abahum isha'an yabkuna. So yabkuna is coming as a hal for where the hum, the waw in ja'u is the sahibul hal. So yabkuna being a jumla fi'liya is fi mahalli nasbin. Okay. Also we can have the maf'ulun bihi, a jumla coming as a maf'ulun bihi. Okay, qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. So qul fi'l amr, And what is being said is a'udhu bi rabbin nas. So that is a object for the verb. So this is now maf'ulun bihi. So that whole jumla a'udhu bi rabbin nas is a maf'ulun bihi fi mahalli nasbin. Similarly, we can have khabar kana. We know if khabar kana is singular word, then it is mansub. But if a jumla comes as a khabar kana, then it'll be fi mahalli nasbin. Okay. Same thing for mudaf ilayhi. We know that when mudaf ilayhi is always majroor. Okay. So if a jumla comes as a mudaf ilayhi, then the jumla will be classified as a fi mahalli jarrin. Okay. So here we have a example from Surah Naba'a. Yawma yunfakhu fi sur. So yawma is zarf, acts like a mudaf. So what comes after it is mudaf ilayhi. So if there was a singular word like yawmul qiyamati, so qiyamati would have been the mudaf ilayhi, singular word and majroor. But here in this ayah, it's not a singular word, it's a complete jumla fi'liya, yunfaqu fi sur. So that whole jumla fi'liya will be classified as a fi mahalli jarrin. Okay. And then we can also have what is called the fi mahalli jazmin. Okay. So jazm or majzoom only applies to the verb. Okay. We know that there are instruments of shart which make two verbs majzoom. Okay. So in, for example, or ma or man. Okay. So those are the adawatu shart which make two verbs majzoom. Now they're only majzoom when they are sorry it's a fail mudare. When that is used, it becomes majzoom because only fail mudare is mu'rab. Madi and amr are not. But we also have cases where jawab shart can actually be a jumla ismiya. Okay. Or we can have a madi used in the fail in the jawab shart or fail amr. So when those cases come, meaning fail mudare is not used as the jawab shart, um, and the instrument of shart was jazim, then we have to classify that jumla, whether it's a jumla ismi or jumla fi'liya, as a fi mahalli jazmin, because we've already established that this adatu shart is supposed to make two fail mudare majzoom. Because we did not have a fail mudare, now we have to classify that whole jumla to be fi mahalli jazmin. Okay, so وَمَن يُضْلِلِ اللَّهُ, and whomsoever Allah lets go astray, fama lahu min had. Okay, so there will be absolutely no guide for him. Okay, so in this case, fama lahu min had is actually a jumla ismiya. There's no fail mudare that we can identify as majzoom. So we said this whole jumla ismiya is actually fi mahalli jazmin, because if there was a mudare, it would have been majzoom. So we are saying this jumla failure is fi mahalli jazmin jawab shart. And then whatever is ma'tuf, if a jumla is ma'tuf to is from one of the tawabe. I shouldn't say matuf only. One of the tawabe. Tawabe can be a naat, it can be a atf, it can be badal, it can be ta'keed. Okay. If a jumla is used for in any of these scenarios, then it will basically have the same rules which apply for a singular word. So, for example, waja'a min aqsal madinati rajulun. Okay, a man came from the outskirts of the city. Okay, yas'a. So yas'a is actually is a full jumla fi'liya. Now here it is being used as a naat for rajulun. Okay, and because rajulun is marfu, yas'a also now gets that classification or that same i'rab, saying fi mahalli raf'in. Okay. And then if the man'ud was, let's say, mansub, in the other example, a'addallahu lahum jannatin, Allah has prepared for them the gardens. Okay, now here jannatin is mansub. Okay, it's a jammu muannas salim, and the tajri min tahtiha al-anhar, that's a full jumla fi'liya, comes as a naat for jannatin. And we know that as naat always follows the case of man'ut. Jannatin is mansub. So jumla failure tajri min tahti al-anhar is fi mahalli nasbin. Okay. Anyway, please take a look at these examples, inshallah. And but this was a section that we covered last time, which was the jumal which have i'rab, the sentences which have i'rab. Okay, and those will be one of the four: fi mahalli raf'in, nasbin, jarrin, or jazmin. Okay. Today I'm going to actually cover the other case of la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay, when the sentence doesn't have any i'rab. Okay, so when does that happen? This is basically exactly the opposite of what we saw in the previous case. Okay, that when a sentence has no singular word equivalent in i'rab, then this sentence has no place in i'rab. And that's where you will find in the Arab dictionaries that they would actually say al-jumla la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, and then they will quite often they will also classify what kind of sentence it is. So I'm going to share with you the 10 classifications that they give, which do not have any place in the Arab because they don't have any singular word equivalent. Okay, Brother Kamal, please go ahead. You have a question?
Yes, Brother Zahid, I have a question from the last session. Last ayah, can you bring the last ayah that is fi mahal jasmin jawab shart for
Sure.
us? So in this ayah, we start with the shart, which is fain tawallo, and fakhuzuhum is jumla jawab shart fi mahal jasmin. Then waqtulum is matuf ala fakhuzuhum. But then when it comes to this la tattakhuzu, this la tattakhuzu is not matufun ala any of the jawab. It's matufun ala the previous wala fala tattakhuzu. So I want to understand why is that. It's not in matufun ala on this sentence of the jawab shart.
فإن تولوا فخذوهم. So خذوهم here is fail amr.
Yes.
And then وقتلوهم, وقتلوا again, sorry, اقتلوا again fail amr. حيث وجدتموهم. You're saying لا تتخذوا منهم وليا ولا نصيرا. That is not, in your opinion, not معطوف to خذوهم.
Yeah, so it is the Dr. Yaqut's the Arab book that says La Tatughi is Matu wala Fattakhzu, which is before the shart.
Oh, this is okay. And that part I have not listed here. Okay, so actually that may be the case. So, but I think maybe I looked at some other analysis, and in that case we will just limit our example just to be on the waqtuluhum, haythu wajadtum. Okay, where I saw, I believe it was matufun ala khuzuhum, but it is possible that it may be actually matuf to the sentence which came before the shart itself. It is possible. Sometimes the Arab dictionaries will have different analysis, no doubt.
So this means the la nahiya you send it, this is outside the jawab shart. That's is it
That
true?
exactly, in that case it will be outside. Correct. That absolutely right. Because if you're going back to the connecting it to the sentence before the shart, then it will not be part of the jawab shart. That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So again, going back to the la mahalla min al i'rab, a sentence having no single word equivalent, it will essentially have no place in the Arab because there is no singular word that the grammar has established, and the Arab always start with singular word. Okay, sorry, I think there is one more hand. Brother Mansoor, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I just
Assalam.
want to ask a very, very basic question. Going back to the, for example, and this question applies to all the way down. Going back to the identification of khabar in a jumla failure. So you start with one word.
No. Jumla failure does not have a khabar.
Sorry, jumla ismiya, khabar.
Correct.
So then you have got other situations like jumla failure coming as a khabar, and down the road all kinds of variations. Is there a quick way to identify right there that okay, it's not one word, but it could be something else, and so on? Is there a quick way of going about? Do you understand my question? if it's a mafulun bihi coming, or it's answer to what do you call asam, or anything else.
So everything, so all of these things have their own rules. Okay, so it really is a case by case. So if you have a sentence that starts with a noun, okay, then you say, okay, I am in the realm of a jumla ismiya. Okay, and so now let me apply the rules of jumla ismiya. Okay, and jumla ismiya, within jumla ismiya, I am looking for mubtada and khabar. There are rules around what is mubtada and what is khabar. There are rules around the sequence of mubtada and khabar. What comes first? When is mubtada supposed to? Can come after the khabar, or when mubtada must come after the khabar. But usually mubtada is actually at the beginning of the sentence. So you basically start applying those rules. Okay. And so first you have to establish, okay, I'm dealing with the jumla ismiya. Now I got the mubtada. Now I'm looking for a khabar. Okay. With the khabar, I have scenarios that khabar can be a singular word, or khabar can be a shibu jumla, or it can be a jumla. Okay. Um, and if it's a singular word, that singular word should be should always be marfu. But if it is, of course, shibu jumla, meaning jar majroor or zarf, then of course you will not see the actual marfu ending, but you will just have to say shibu jumla fi mahalli raf in khabar. And if it's a jumla, so anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is the the easy way is to are the three Medina books. There is I don't know of an easier way of to do it. It is kind of a decision tree that you go through. You look at the scenario that you're dealing with, and then you start applying those rules that we have studied. Of course, the more you do, the quicker it actually becomes. So because you have seen those scenarios repeatedly, you say, yeah, I've seen it before. I know exactly. For example, if I see inna Allah ma'as sabirin, I know, okay, inna comes and I'm gonna expect ismu inna, which will be mansub, and then after that I expect a khabar inna, which has to be marfu. So in this case, ma'a came. Oh, ma'a I know is a zarf. So zarf can be a khabar. So this actually looks like it is a khabar, and then after that I will have a mudaf ilayhi. So sabirin is actually mudaf ilayhi because it is majroor. So that's kind of a rule that you have to apply. There's I don't know of any shortcut that something will just automatically just come out saying, oh, this is a khabar as a singular word versus a jumla. But Shakil, do you have a comment?
Yes, just a comment. A simpler word, as you said, that there is no shortcut to the knowledge. However, a simple, what you are describing and what we are learning is the position of a sentence uh, as the Arab. We are not learning the position of the words in Arab because that's simple. For example, huwa rajulun. So it is you know that huwa is what and rajulun is what. But if something come, for example, if you say something verb, then that verb is another jumla. So that sentence or jumla, you have to build your ability to identify that. Can you identify in any example the jumla sentence, separate sentence? For example, there's two verses here. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. These are the two examples. Now, can you identify that these are the complete or there are multiple jumul in these? So if you are able to identify the jumla, then you have to define that what is the position of the jumla, what is the i'rab of that jumla. This is what we are learning now.
Yeah,
So
correct.
that ability is very important for everybody, that while we're reading Arabic language, any book or Quran or Hadith, you should identify where is jumla start, new jumla.
Yeah, and that's what the Arab dictionaries help you with, and that's where
exactly.
When you finish Medina books, quite often you start looking at the Arab books, and because the Medina books actually did not cover the full aspect of the Arab of Jumal, people start. I mean, a common question which even I used to have when I was doing it is, what is this la mahalla laha min al Arab business? Okay, what exactly is going on? Because the Medina book actually did not have this topic covered. That's why when I started looking into it, it was just very interesting that there is a whole um, um, classification of sentences based on their Arab. And so because everything has to click in. If you see a text like Quran, the grammarians have actually analyzed every single sentence and what its relationship is with the previous sentence. Okay. And sometimes that relationship makes it gives it an Arab, and sometimes it has no place, and that's why we have to look at both sides. Okay, so here's the first example, a first category of sentences which have no place in the Arab. First one is ibtidaiya. So at the beginning of any speech or any text, the very first sentence that appears in that text is called the ibtidaiya. It is the beginning sentence. Okay, and that beginning sentence will be classified as la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, because there is no singular word that has been classified to be at the beginning of a sentence and having an Arab. So a beginning sentence of any text will always be ibtidaiya. So if you open any surah, the very first ayah of that surah will always be analyzed as la mahalla laha min al-i'rab jumla ibtidaiya, always. Okay, so I have written two beginning ayat of two surahs, inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr, complete sentence. Because it's a very first sentence coming in the text, the Arab books will say jumla ibtidaiya la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. And same thing with qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Okay, the complete sentence starting from qul is actually the very first sentence in this surah. It's a new text basically, or new. I guess Quran does not have those paragraphs, but it's a new surah. So from their point of view, it is basically the very first sentence in it. So it's la mahalla min al-i'rab. Okay, that's the first one. The second one that we have seen repeatedly is isti'nafiya. Okay, so this is so the difference between isti'nafiya and go ahead, brother Khalid. You're on mute.
Yeah. So I'm a little confused here. This ayah, inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. So why can we not analyze this?
No, we can analyze.
I don't see any reason, right?
No. We absolutely can. We absolutely can analyze the inside of the sentence. The sentence we can analyze. Inna harfu tawkidin wa nasbin, na is ismu inna, and then anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr is jumla fi'liya fi mahalli raf'in khabar inna. All that we can do that, all of that. But this sentence itself, the complete sentence itself. Okay, so think of that complete sentence. What is the Arab of that sentence? I'm not talking about the Arab of the words in the sentence. I'm talking about let me draw a line around it. This sentence itself. What is the Arab of this sentence as a unit, as one unit? Because it's a very first sentence at the beginning of a speech, it is classified as ibtidaiya, and ibtidaiya sentences are la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, because they are not equivalent to any singular word which would have any Arab.
And same thing applies to qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas.
Correct. And same thing applies to every first ayah of every surah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sister Anisa, please go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, brother. I don't understand that, because if these have Arabs, why do they say they don't have Arabs?
Okay.
Like,
so there are two things, sister. One is Arab of the words. Second is i'rab of the sentence. Okay.
Okay.
So what are the words in this ayah? Inna, okay, has, we know the i'rab for it. So it's so there is a inna, which is, we know it's a harfu tawkid nasbin, and then there is a na, which is a ismu inna, and then anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr. That's another sentence. Okay, jumla failure, which is coming as a khabar inna, so it's fi mahalli raf'in. Within that, we can now say, okay, anzal is fail mudare. Sorry, it's fail madi. Okay, na is fa'il, who is mafulun bihi, fi is harfu jar, laylati is ism majroor, wa huwa mudaf, and al qadr is mudaf ilayhi. So we can do the i'rab of the word. So when I'm doing that, I am doing this. I'm doing the i'rab of the words. Correct? Are you with me so far, Sister Anisa?
Ji.
Okay, but I am talking about, and let me use a different. I'm talking about the outside full sentence. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr. Do we agree that's a complete sentence?
Ji. Yeah.
So as a complete sentence, without looking inside the sentence, as a complete sentence, what are its i'rab?
Don't know.
Exactly. So what they say is, because as a complete sentence is coming at the beginning of the speech, it has no singular word equivalent. The complete sentence, I keep highlighting that, and sorry for so much repetition. As a complete sentence, it has no equivalent for a singular word. Hence, that complete sentence, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr, that whole sentence at the sentence level has no i'rab. Not the singular word. Singular words internally have all the i'rab, but the whole sentence has no i'rab. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the i'rab dictionaries do analysis at two levels, always two levels. One is i'rab of the words. Okay, i'rab of the words, and that's what we have done majority of the time in Medina books. Okay, and the i'rab all they are all rooted in the i'rab of the words. The i'rab of the sentence is based on the i'rab of the words. Okay, if the sentence is has a singular word equivalent, then a sentence will also have the same i'rab. If the sentence has no singular word equivalent, then it will have no i'rab. But both i'rab are done in the i'rab dictionaries at the word level and at the sentence level.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Nisar, please go ahead.
Like if you have an example of, for example, Yasin wal Quran al Hakim. Now, wal Quran al Hakim will have an Arab now?
Actually, we have not gone through the complete list of all sentences which are La Mahalala min al-Arab. Just because it is not Ibtidaiya does not mean that it has Arab. Okay. Ibtidaiya is only one of the categories of sentences which does not have Arab. There are 9 other categories which do not have Arab, and those 9 other categories are not going to be Ibtidaiya. They will be in the middle of the text and they will still not have any Arab. So we will look at them as well.
Okay, Jazakallah.
Yeah. Okay, I think so. If you, the 2 raised hands, okay. So that was the first one, Ibtidaiya. The second one is actually something that we have seen already, which is Isti'nafiya. Okay, Isti'nafiya. Now, Isti'nafiya and Ibtidaiya are actually very similar. Okay, the only difference is that Isti'nafiya is something that comes in the middle of the sentence. Okay, and Ibtidaiya comes at the beginning. Isti'nafiya is basically the concept is that a sentence comes as other than the beginning, and it has no relationship to the sentence before it. It basically has no relationship. It has no naat manuz relationship. It is not a khabar. It is not a hal. It is not tamyiz. It is not sifa. It is not badal. It is not coming as a jawabu shart. Nothing. It is just, it has no relationship. Okay. So, for example, in this case, Surah Inshira, ayah number 4, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. Okay, and we raised your remembrance, okay, or your zikr. And then it says, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. And with every difficulty, there's an ease. Inna ma'al usri yusran. With every difficulty, there is an ease. Okay. So this there's no relationship between فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا with the sentence before وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. There's no relationship between the two. So so this sentence إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, or in this case فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, is referred to as جملة استئنافية لا محل لها من الإعراب, because it has no singular word equivalent that has i'rab. So they say it is basically a la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, meaning it has no relationship to the sentence before it. Because of that lack of relationship, it basically is jumla istinafiya. Now, there is no rule, there is no grammatical rule that can be given to identify the jumla istinafiya. Okay, that's I want to make it clear. There is no grammatical rule there. The jumla istinafiya can be preceded with a fa. Okay, it can be preceded with a waw, or it can just be empty. There may not be anything at the beginning of the jumla istinafiya. Okay, so fa, waw, and nothing. Okay, of course it doesn't help in this case because fa can be used for many other things, waw can be used for many other things as well, and of course not having anything before a sentence itself is not enough for us to establish istinafiya, because it can still be a khabar, it can be a naat and other things. So but all these three things do exist, that you can have a fa, a waw, or nothing before that sentence, and can be istinafiya. But the Arab dictionaries will identify that the sentence is istinafiya, and then they will say la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Okay, well, Saeed, please go ahead.
Yes, we study the Arab so that we know that there is a proper Arabs on the letters, and we don't pronounce differently. But
sorry, I missed the very first part. Can you repeat that again?
What I'm saying is that when we study the Arabs of the words, it's important that we know whether it is Damar, Kasra, Zabar, or Fatah. But when we are talking about the sentence and we are saying it has no Arab, what value does it add to the analysis?
What value does it add?
Like if I say it's La Mahalla or Istinafiya or Ibtidaiya, I mean, what value does it add to the understanding, to the grammar, to the analysis?
So actually, can I answer the question by going to the Laha Mahlul min al-I'rab first?
Okay.
So if I look at the, let's say the second example, in this case, this Inna Allah ya'murukum an tasbahu baqara. Okay. So based on my knowledge, let's say I don't know anything at all about the Arab of the Jumal. Okay. All I know is there's Inna. Inna will have a ismu Inna which will be mansub, and it will have a khabar Inna which will be marfu. Okay. So now I have Inna here, and then I have Lafz Jalala, which is ismu Inna. Where is my khabar Inna now? I cannot complete the sentence. I cannot find a singular word which is marfu. So I can't even identify the complete sentence. So how will I understand what is being said here? How will I establish where is my khabar Inna? Okay. So the Arab of Jumal help us understand the structure of the sentences which contain other sentences in order to complete that sentence. Okay. Otherwise, Inna Allaha is not a complete sentence. I need a khabar inna in order to make some sense of this sentence. And if my knowledge is limited to a singular word khabar inna, then I don't find it here. Okay. So so because of that, I need to understand the Arab of the sentences. And what we are listing here are all the different Arabs of the sentences and what their function is. And the function is always related back to the singular word purpose of the sentence. Okay. Similarly, for example, we had Vama Adraka. Okay. Vama Adraka ma Laylatul Qadr. We talked about it last time. Actually, no, I think I'll go with simpler example. Khabar kana.
No, I'm
One
talking
for
about
some
the la.
kanu
I'm
yazlimun.
talking about the la mahalla la min al arab.
Okay, no, I understand. I'll get there. I get there. So, so do you agree, so first of all, do you agree that there is a value for the sentences which has place in the Arab, correct?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So what the grammarians did was they said, okay, so these are all the reasons why sentences have Arab, but sentences do show up in other sentences. What are those cases? What are those cases? And can we actually list all those reasons as well? And that's what they have done. So they have actually said, here are all the reasons for sentences to show up in the sentences, and yet they don't have any place in the Arab. They don't have any singular word equivalent. Okay, that's what they have done. Why don't we go through the list, and once we have gone through the list, then we can see whether there is actually any value or not. I think if there was no value, I don't think grammarians would have spent all this time explaining this to us. But let's go through the list, inshallah. Okay. So we looked at two, ibtidaiya and istinafiya. Both of them have no place in the Arab, la mahalla min al-Arab, because there is no singular word equivalent. Third one is ta'liliya, a justification. Okay. A sentence can come in the can come in with as part of another sentence, and that second sentence will be giving a justification for the first sentence. Okay, so in this case, Surah Tawbah, ayah number 103, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُم وَتُزَكِّيهِم بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ. Okay, وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ, and give blessings upon them. And then it says, Inna salataka sakanun lahum. Surely your salat is a source of comfort for them. Okay. So that sentence, Inna salataka sakanun lahum, is actually a justification for the sentence just before, which is Salli alayhim. Okay. Salli alayhim, give or pray upon them, or give blessings upon them. Surely your blessing is is comforting for them. So that is a justification given for the something just before. So here that whole sentence is now analyzed as a ta'liliya. It's a justifying sentence, but because there is no singular word equivalent for that, it is said la mahalla min al-Arab, because there is no singular word that is used in Arabic language to give a justification. So it is simply referred to as la mahalla min al-Arab. Even though it's a full jumla, it is basically coming as a justifying sentence. Okay, that's the third one. Again, there is no grammatical rule that specifies how to find a jumla ta'liliya. It'll typically be, we will have to understand it from the translation or from the Arab dictionary. At least we have, I mean, I have not come across that text. Maybe there is, it's more advanced topic, how to identify it, but there's no grammatical rule, or there is no specific instrument of justification, but it can just show up in the sentence. Next one is i'tiradiyya. Okay, something that we are actually quite used to. Sometimes we don't realize it. Okay, it's a simplest explanation is a detour. Okay, you're saying something, you take a quick detour, and then you come back to what you were saying. Okay, Surah Taha, ayah number 15, Inna sa'ata atiyatun. Okay, surely the hour is coming. Okay, and then it says akadu ukhfiha. Okay, so it is actually a complete jumla fa'iliya. Okay, what is the relationship of this with the previous one? Well, if you look at after this, it says litujziya kullu nafsin bima tas'a. Okay, so if you remove the akadu ukhfiha for a second and look at the complete topic, it makes sense. Inna sa'ata atiyatun litujza kullu nafsin bima tas'a. Surely the hour is coming for every soul to be compensated. Okay, for every soul to be compensated. Okay, for what it strived. Okay, and then akadu ukhfiha is in between those two to basically I mean, no description, or but just basically it is coming in the middle when the two things on the other sides are connected. So it is just a quick detour and come back. Okay, akadu ukhfiha, I almost exposed it, meaning almost shared it with when the hour is. Okay, but that has not. I mean, it is not really. How should I put it? Uh, I mean, it is in between the main topic that's being discussed, which is the hour is coming for every soul to be compensated. It is in a way related with it, but it is just an additional sentence which is added in between. Okay, I mean, think of it this way. I mean, if I were to say Muhammadun, okay, sallallahu, sorry, alayhi wasallama, and then I say Rasulullahi. Okay, what am I trying to say? Actually, what I'm trying to say is Muhammadun Rasulullahi. That's the main topic in this sentence. Muhammadun Rasulullahi. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Okay, but what we are taught from the hadith is that we are supposed to say blessings and peace and blessings. We are supposed to send peace and blessings upon the Rasulullah whenever we say his name. So we say Muhammadun sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, in the proper name for the Etiradiyya will be parenthetical sentence. Parenthetical sentence. Okay, so it is actually, you put this in a bracket. Okay, the main topic is Muhammadun Rasulullah, but in between you put something else based on whatever the circumstances. You just basically you said his name and you are now sending peace and blessings upon it, and then you continue. You continue on the topic that you started before you going into the parenthetical sentence. Okay. So this, and then no, because again there is no singular word equivalent in the grammar for that. That parenthetical sentence is called La mahalla min al-i'rab. Okay, so akadu ukhfiha in Surah Taha will be La mahalla min al-i'rab, and then in Muhammadun sallallahu alaihi wasallam Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be La mahalla min al-i'rab jumla itiradiyya. Okay, Surah Baqarah ayah number 24. Fa illam taf'alu, and if they cannot do it, okay, this is being said for them to bring some evidence or sorry, bring a surah the like of Quran, okay, and then it says فَإِلَّمْ تَفْعَلُوا, and if they cannot do it, and if they cannot do it, okay, then as per the topic, the next thing is فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. Okay, then they should fear the nar whose fuel is going to be people and stones. But in between it says walan tafalu, and they will never be able to do it, and they will never be able to do it. So that this sentence which is added in between is etaradiyya. It is parenthetical sentence, and if they cannot do it, and then Allah clarifies, and they will never be able to do it. Okay, and then it says fattaqul nar. So that fattaqu is actually related to what's before the parenthetical sentence. Okay. So anyway, moving on, I'm going to skip the example. You can, I can share this with you, inshallah, later on. So that was number 4. The number 5 category of sentences which have no place in the Arab is al-waqiyatu silatul mawsul. Anything that comes as a silatul mawsul, okay, is again, because silatul mawsul is not going to be a mufrad word. It's always going to be a sentence. That sentence does not have a singular word equivalent, hence it has no place in the Arab. Okay, so Surah Fatiha, ayah number 7, Surat al-Lazina an'amta alayhim. So an'amta alayhim is a complete jumla, but coming as Surat al-Mawsul, it is always la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, and you will see that repeatedly in some of the Arab books. Some Arab books actually don't even say that because it is such a universal rule. They just say sila tul mawsul, and that's it. That's enough. And then if you know that it is not, it doesn't have any Arab, then it doesn't add anything to actually keep saying it again and again. Okay. So again, the emphasis has been every single sentence that comes in the text should be analyzed, whether it has Arab or not, and if it doesn't, then why does it not have the Arab? It should have one of these reasons. All right, next one is tafsiriya, okay, which is to provide a description of something that came before. Something that came before. Okay. Here again, two ayahs from Surah Taha, 30 and 39. This is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing Musa alayhi salam. And at one point he says, is awhayna ila ummika ma yuha. Okay. When remember when we inspired your mother, okay, ma yuha, that which was inspired. Okay, so the meaning of this ayah is, remember when we inspired your mother. Okay, what did we inspire? Ma yuha, that which was inspired. That's it. That's what this ayah says. Okay, remember when we inspired your mother, that which was inspired. Yuha is actually mabni lil majhul, passive voice. And then it starts by saying, anaqzi fihi fi ta'bud, faqzi fihi fil jam, faljulqihi jammu bisahil, ya'khudhuhu aduwwun li wa aduwwun lahu. Okay, that whole jumla which is coming after is now describing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired Hazrat Musa's mother with, which was that cast or put him, meaning Hazrat Musa, in the tabut, in a box, okay, and then faqzi fihi, and then put or throw or cast that box fil jammi, in the river, okay, faljulqihi jammu bisahil, and then the river will throw it on the sahil, on the edge of the river. Ya'khudhu aduwwun wa aduwwun lahu, and then the enemy to me and enemy to him will take him from it. Will take him from where it was left. So that is not giving a tafsir of what the sentence of the sentence before. Okay, so, and that again, that tafsir doesn't have a singular word equivalent in the Arabic grammar. So whenever that sentence is used, a sentence comes in to give a tafsir for something before, it will be classified as jumla tafsiriya, and then it will basically have la mahra laha min al-i'rab. Brother Saeed, please go ahead.
Yeah, just want to clarify that when it says ma yuha, that means there is a whole set of yuha, and anikzefi is just one of that.
Yeah, true, but I mean,
otherwise Allah would have said, ila ummika, then anikzefi, if it was the whole wahi. But so apparently it looks like there was more than anikzefiha.
Yeah, Allah knows best. I'm just explaining to what I have understood from here. Okay, I think that actually, no pun intended, but it gets into the tafsir. This is a jumla tafsiriya, in the sense that there is a jumla coming which is describing something that came before. Whether it's describing the whole of it or only part of it, Allah knows best. Okay, but it does describe what was coming before. Okay, and that relationship that it has before, with the sentence that comes before, is referred to as tafsiriya, and a jumla tafsiriya has no singular word equivalent, hence it is la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Okay, another example is from Surah Al Imran, rabbana innana sami'na munadiyan yunadi lil iman an aminu bi rabbikum. Okay, that, oh Lord, we heard a caller call towards the iman. Okay, and then it kind of describes what does it mean to call towards the iman. An aminu bi rabbikum, that believe in your Lord, and that believe in your Lord. So meaning iman is being described as believing in your Lord, and then fa'amanna, so we believed. So this an aminu bi rabbikum is again jumla fi'liya, la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, tafsiriya. It is giving a description of what is coming before. Okay, So that was number 6 category. And then number 7th is al-waqiyatu jawabun lil qasam. Okay. So we talked about jawab shart before. Now we are talking about jawabul qasam. That you can have a so of course whenever there is a qasam, we expected there's to be a jawabul qasam. The jawabul qasam is never expected to be a singular word. Okay. So when the sentence is coming as a jawabul qasam, it will not have any equivalent for a singular word. Hence, it will be a la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay, so first, the second, third ayat of Surah Yasin wal Quran al Hakim, that is the qasam. Jawabu qasam is innaka la min al mursaleen. So that sentence will now be classified as la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay. Next one is so all jawabu qasam will be la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay. And then next one is al-waqiyatu jawabun li-shart ghair jazim. Okay. Before we said in the sentences which are fi mahalli jazmin, when they are jawab for a jawab shart for a jazim instrument of shart. Here we are talking about ghair jazim. Okay. So two of them that which are used here are iza. Okay. Iza is a ghair jazim instrument of shart, and so is law. Iza tutla alayhi ayatuna, because iza is ghair jazim, it's not supposed to make anything majzoom. When you have a jawabu shart coming, there is no singular word equivalent for it. Hence, it will be la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay. Same thing with law, ghair jazim. So its jawab will be la mahalla laha min al i'rab. That's what you will find in the Arab dictionaries. Okay. And then number 9 is al-waqiyatu jawabu lin-nida. Okay. Whenever there is a nida, there will be a jawabu nida. So in this case, for example, ya bani Israel. Okay. O sons of Israel. And then uzkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum. Okay. So this uzkuru, which is being said after calling them, okay, that is a complete sentence now. And what is the standing of this sentence? It is a jawabu nida. And jawabu nida is not does not have a singular word equivalent. Hence, la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay. Brother Suhail, please go ahead.
Yes, brother, could you please zoom out a little bit? I cannot see on the right hand side answer to the, okay.
Call.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the last category is, which is understandable, anything which is tabe to another sentence which is la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay, so if the sentence itself was la mahalla laha min al i'rab and then another sentence was connected with it, okay, either with the atf or as a let's say a badal, then that sentence will also be la mahalla laha min al i'rab, because those are the basic rules that we have studied. Okay, so in this case, for example, ya bani Israel uzkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum. So that part we already know. Because allati came, this is a so this is ismul mawsul. The an'amtu alaykum is silatul mawsul la mahalla laha min al i'rab, and then it says wa awfu bi ahdi. Waw came, waw al atf, and then awfu bi ahdi, and then ufi bi ahdikum. Okay, so this is now connected with what is connected with an'amtu alaykum. So if an'amtu alaykum was la mahalla laha min al i'rab, then awfu bi ahdi, ufi bi ahdikum will also be la mahalla laha min al i'rab. Okay, and then of course wa iyya ya farhabun. Okay. Actually, I think this I should not have highlighted it. I should check again. This may be connected with uzkuru. Actually, you know what? Even in that case, it will still be la mahalla min al i'rab, because this is uzkuru is jawabu nida. Anyway, I think many hands raised. Go ahead, brother Saeed.
Yes, this Ya Bani Israel isn't to the Qawl al Maqul.
No, ask me the question again. I didn't understand it.
the Ya Bani Israel, Allah saying, oh Bani Israel, and then what follows should be under quote, Qawl al-Maqul.
No, that is when there's a qala. The verb qala is there, then you have a qawlul maqul. Here, the verb qala is not there. Even if the qala was there, qala would have been here. Correct? Qala ya bani Israel. So in that case, this whole thing will be qawlul maqul, but we are only talking about uzkuru. Okay? Okay. But Sohail, please go ahead.
Yes, brother, my same question in the sense that could you just kindly explain a little bit about nida and jawabul nida? So like if anything comes after nida, should it be considered equivalent to ibtidaiya? Obviously it's not ibtidaiya, but is that the rationale why it doesn't have a single word substitute?
I mean, think about it. If you say whenever you have a nida, okay, a nida is what? When you basically call someone with the harfu nida as ja, okay. So I'm just going to use a simple example. If I, let's say, call my son, okay, I say, Ya Ahmed, okay. After I say that, okay, when Ahmed pays attention to me, I'm supposed to tell him something. That whatever I'm going to tell him is not going to be one word. It is going to be a jumla. It has to be a jumla for it to be a meaningful statement for him to understand. Okay, even if it looks like a one word, even if I say ijlis, sit, that's a complete jumla. Okay. So it is always going to be a complete sentence. And because it will never be a single word, mufrad, that sentence will not have an equivalent of a singular word. So the grammar does not have a definition of a single word jawabu nida. Meaning there is no single word jawabu nida, which means there is no i'rab for it. Hence, when the complete sentence is said, that sentence has no place in the i'rab. It ila mahalla min al-i'rab. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Jazakallah.
So atf was one, badal is another. Okay. Wattaqullaha allazi amaddakum bima ta'malun. Okay. And then next ayah is amaddakum bi an'amim wa banin. Okay. Wattaqullaha allazi sorry, wattaqul lazi, and fear the one who, fear the one who amaddakum bima ta'malun. Okay. Who provided you bima ta'malun. Okay. So now if you look at it, wattaqu is fail amr. Okay. Where is the file? Wow. Okay. And what is allazi? Mafulun bihi. Okay. Fi mahalli nasbin mafulun bihi to ittaqu. And we know that it is the ismul mawsul. So what's coming after this is silatul mawsul. Okay. So what is silatul mawsul? This amaddakum bima ta'malun. Okay. This is all silatul mawsul. I'm not going to analyze that sentence internally, but we know with respect to allazi, this is silatul mawsul. Okay. The one who provided you with that which you know. Okay. The one who provided you with that which you know. Okay. And what is silatul mawsul? We already studied up above that this is actually la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. That's always true for silatul mawsul. And then the next ayah is amaddakum bi an'amim wa banin. Okay, he provided you with cattle and your sons. Okay. So what is the relationship of this amaddakum with the previous amaddakum, or this whole sentence amaddakum bi an'amim wa banina with the previous amaddakum bima ta'malun? This sentence is a badal for it, badal for silatul mawsul. Okay. But now because silatul mawsul is la mahalla min al-i'rab, And we know that the rules of badal are that it has the same i'rab as mubdal minhu. So this sentence also is la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Okay, and of course we cannot say that the second amaddakum bi an'amim wa banina is ma'tuf, because for it to be ma'tuf it needs to have a harfu atf, whether it is a waw or a fa or a thumma. It needs to have some harfu atf. There is no harfu atf. Without the harfu atf, there has to be some other relationship or no relationship. Okay? In this case, the relationship is that there is a badal for it, and the badal establishes is one of the tawabe, so it has basically the same i'rab, or in this case, no i'rab. Brother Saeed, please go ahead.
Yeah, it could be tafsiriya because it's describing the maddaku.
But think about it. I mean, bima ta'amaloon versus bi an'amim wa banin. It is not just the cattle and the sons that we know. Okay, it is more than that. It's a substitute for the first one. Okay, Dr. Saab, please go ahead.
Brother Zahid, it's very confusing now. It looks like almost half of the Quran is la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. So the life becomes very easy if we can finish in a year and time.
So
this is so many exceptions. It's unbelievable. You know, I'm really surprised. But I do understand each of the sentences inside have their own Arabs. You know, so
correct.
Yeah.
So again, this is one of the things. To be honest, is very difficult for me to explain. Yet internally I just enjoy it so much, which is that they have analyzed the whole Quran, and they analyzed every word in it and every sentence in it. Okay, and then the sentences. When it comes to the sentences, there are many categories of sentences as they appear in the Quran, which do not have the singular word equivalent, and so they, in that case, they state that this is actually la mahalla min al-i'rab, and they also specify one of these 10 categories. In which of these categories does it belong, and because of that, it has no place in the i'rab.
Okay. It's very interesting. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So it really, for me, it is how should I put it, very comforting that level of analysis have taken place. Deep research has taken place, and I'm not talking about recently. I'm talking about centuries ago, that they have actually done that type of analysis and come up with a completely well integrated analysis of the Quran, which itself we know is quite well integrated. Okay. And as Brother Saeed also said, well, maybe this is actually tafsiriya. Okay. So in some cases, there is definitely a difference of opinion, where they will say this is tafsiriya, or they will say isti'nafiya, or sometimes they will say this is ma'tuf and this is not isti'nafiya. So those differences are there, and those differences sometimes can impact the interpretation of that ayah as well. And that's why you can see sometimes the translators translating it differently. Okay. Unfortunately, this course does not prepare us for that level of deep understanding, but those differences do exist, just so that you know. And sometimes the Arab dictionary would actually give you multiple options, and Dr. Yaqub actually does that sometimes. That they will say there are these different aspects or different possibilities which exist while you analyze this sentence, and they will give you all these different options one by one. Well, Khalid, please go ahead.
Yeah, so Bazat is just on a lighter note. You said it's very comforting for you. I'm saying it's very comforting for me as well. Wherever I don't understand, I would say la mahalla la min al-i'rab. It's very
actually,
comforting
whenever
for me.
I don't understand it, I actually say la malalaha min zehni, in my zehen. It has no place in my zehen.
So it makes me easy, actually. It's whenever I can't figure out, I say just la mahalla la min al-i'rab.
That's what I said. The life become very easy now. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think what you will find with this one is, going back to Brother Saeed's first question, what is the value of it? Okay, if nothing else, one of the value is that now whenever you open the Arab dictionary and you see all this repeated la mahalla min al Arab, la mahalla min al Arab, you will at least have some reference of why are they saying it. Okay, why are they saying that this has no place in the Arab? Even if I don't fully understand what is the purpose for them saying it, but at least I know that there is such a thing as la mahrala manara, and it is all one of these different types, and that's why they are saying it in terms of how do I establish why exactly is that so, or whether it's a tafsiriya or etradiya or istinafia, that we are not equipped with that knowledge or experience, so we may need to just rely on them. But at least I know that there is such a thing in the Arab dictionary which will repeatedly say la marhala min al Arab, and this is why they are saying it. Okay, I have an interesting example that I want to share with you guys actually. Okay, here's an ayah from Surah Nisa. Okay, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَنُدْخِلُهُم جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا لَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَنُدْخِلُهُم ظِلًّا ظَلِيلًا. Okay, so what I want to show you is, in this ayah, for example, what is going on? I mean, if you look at this ayah and start to break it down, there is so much stuff going on in terms of the singular word analysis, but also what's going on in terms of the sentence analysis as well. Okay, sorry, I missed a raised hand. Brother Harun, please go ahead. If you're talking, you're on mute.
Does the Medina books prepared us for this kind of deep analysis? Because I caught up to your one word which you use for yourself, that you have a passion to understand it. But does everybody have a passion to understand that deep?
Why everybody like equipped with so difficult questions today?
Because if it would have been that important, then I'm sure Dr. Saab would have put something about it in his 3 books. It is like, I mean, you're trying to understand the Greek literature, English literature, instead of just reading it and saying, okay, I understand what he's trying to say. But you're not going to go so deep in understanding all these foreign literature, because we must not forget that this is not our language.
Correct.
We are not born with this language. So even if I talk to the people when I went abroad in the Arabic countries, they don't have this kind of knowledge, what we are trying to achieve. So unless you have, and that's the word which you use, passion for it, then it becomes a different thing, that you have a passion and you go to every length to satisfy your passion.
No, it's a very good question. So I would say, so the reason for this is not the passion actually, because if I were to follow just the passion, then there's a lot of other stuff that I believe I would like to do. But your question is valid. The Medina books, your point of view that if it was important enough, the Dr. Sahab would have mentioned in there. I don't 100% agree with that. Okay, because we do have to understand the purpose of the Medina books and the context in which they were written. Okay, these Medina books are written originally they were written for the students who were studying a broader curriculum, and this was a part of their curriculum for them to build a certain level of understanding about Arabic. But then they were studying other things as well. Okay, they were studying Sharia, they were studying fiqh, they were studying Quran, all kinds of other disciplines as well, and Arabic was only part of it. Okay, and this was not intended for on its own for you to basically take you from zero to be able to start understanding Quran about 80 to 90%. Okay, there were other disciplines which helped those students who were full-time students to for that purpose. Okay, and by the way, their goal was also not just to understand the Quran. Their goal was also, I mean, broader than that. They wanted to understand the Quran, the Hadith, the fiqh, and all the other vast literature that was written in Arabic on the Islamic studies part. But in terms of comparing this text to any other text, this definitely was the most you can say systematic and very extensive for non-speakers to use in their desire to understand Quran. But it still did not fill all the gaps which are needed. Okay, and what we are trying to do in this case is that if there is an area which is not in the Medina books, but it is needed for us to understand the Quran, then we should bring it up. We should actually discuss that. Okay, so Medina book to me are wonderful. I mean, they are written by a genius, but but we do have to understand that there was a context, there was a background, there was a need that they were fulfilling, and our need, while it may match, let's say 80% or 90% of it, that 10% of need that we have to understand the Quran is not met by them, and so we have to fill that. That's how I see it. I'm not sure if I fully answered your question though.
Yeah, there's Zahid, can I say something? Because Dr. Saab is just preparing us for that and to move forward. If you can see other books and other.
But Asif, we can't hear you anymore.
Oh, sorry. I mean, if you can see the Dr. Abdul Rahim's selection from the Glorious Quran and Surah Nur and other work
Publication. Yes.
Publications, you can see that they are reflecting what what we are doing right now on those areas. So this is the kind of a preparative stage in which Dr. Saab fragmentedly described in all the chapters. But if you go to advanced work of the Dr. Saab, they are pretty much going in the same, not in that detail, of course, because Dr. Saab says, when I was talking to him, he said, don't need it. If you know all the basic stuff, that's why he always go in. If you look into his videos, he go with the nice basic structures for to understand basically.
Yeah.
So coming
actually,
back to
Dr. Saab himself has done advanced topics. Those videos are actually available on YouTube as well, including things, for example, about the quasi active and passive participles. Okay, we have studied, for example, the Khalidun and all those things, but actually there's more to it. Just because something is on the version of fa'ilun doesn't mean that it is a small file. There is actually there's more to it, and those are in English. The simplest translation is quasi active participle or passive participle, and Dr. Sir has a whole, I think, 1 hour or maybe longer video explaining what that concept is. Another concept of the Mirushan, for example. Okay, when we say Qul huwallahu ahad, this huwa that comes in Qul huwallahu ahad is the Mirushan. Actually, we haven't studied that in Medina books. So there are areas that Dr. Sab then has further gone after Medina books to explain. This is just one area that was not covered in Medina books, but because it repeatedly comes in the Arab dictionaries, it's a constant question that people ask: what is this La Mahalla in Arab? What is it? So my goal is just to explain what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. So very quickly, I just wanted to show with you. So same ayah, okay, Walladina amanu wa amilu salihati, all the way. I just broken it down, place things slightly differently, okay, just for us to understand what's going on here. Walladina amanu, okay, wa amilu salihati, and then goes back. Sanudkhiluhum jannatin, and then comes down. Tajri min tahtiha al-anhar, okay, and then khalidina fiha abada, lahum fiha azwajum mutahhara, wa nudkhiluhum dhillan dhalila. The reason I organized it in this way is to explain how many different sentences are here and how, in addition to just single word analysis, the analysis of those sentences also is needed for us to understand what's going on here. Okay, so ayah starts with, or sentence starts with wallazina. Okay, let's not go into what kind of wow it is, because that will require us to look at the ayah before, whether it's it's an afia, or whether it is harfu atf, it's not in the scope of this discussion. But allazina is beginning of the sentence. So what is allazina? Mubtada, correct? Now after allazina, we are going to see silatul mawsul, okay, which silatul mawsul plays no role in the main sentence. Silatul mawsul is basically always said to have la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. So this amanu is la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Okay, because it's silatul mawsul. And then wa amilu salihat, wow, we know is harfu atf. And what is amilu salihat connected to? It is connected to amanu. Okay, so amanu was a full jumla failure, and then amilu salihat is also a full jumla failure. So this amilu salihat is connected with amanu. So this is ma'tufun ala amanu. So it amilu salihat is also la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. So this is also now, because it is ma'tuf to another sentence which is la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, so it is also la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Okay, so then after, once this stops, then it goes back to sanudkhiluhum jannatin tajri. So now the reason I put it at the top at the same level as allazina is because remember in that sentence we had found the mubtada, but we have not found the khabar so far. Okay, so now sanudkhiluhum jannatin tajri, we will make them enter, or we will enter them into the gardens. Okay, so that sentence, okay, is now, again, this is also a jumla failure. Okay, jumla failure. But what is the standing of this jumla failure? This jumla is coming as a khabar for allazina, coming as a khabar for allazina. So this is fi mahalli raf'an. Okay, khabar. So that jumla sanudkhiluhum jannatin is a khabar for allazina. Okay, then it continues, and then another sentence comes tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. Okay, the rivers flow under them, or under the gardens. Basically, ha goes to jannat. Okay, rivers flow under them, again a jumla failure. But what is the purpose of that? This jumla, okay, this jumla is actually a again jumla failure. Okay, fi mahalli nasbin naat li jannat. Okay, it's coming as a naat for jannat. Why, and why are we saying nasbin? Because jannat itself was ma'fulun bihi. I'm actually not going into the single word analysis, which we have already done so many times. I'm just trying to highlight the analysis of the jumal. But because in this case the analysis of tajri min tahtiha al-anhar depends on the analysis of jannat, we have to establish that it is fi mahalli nasbin. Okay, then it says khalidina fiha abada. Okay, they are actually, this is a difficult translation, because if I go the literal translation, khalidina is a noun. Okay, so there is no English equivalent of that word. Okay, the simplest one will be Khalid means to live forever. Okay, so so Khalidina will be the ones who live forever. The ones who live forever, fiha, in it, abada, always. Okay, so this is not a sentence. This is not a sentence. Okay, this is not a jumla. But Khalidina is actually singular word coming as a hal. The hal, okay, because hal is always mansub, and hal for the sahibul, sahibul hal in this case is whom? They, the one who are entering the gardens. Okay, and then lahum fiha azwajum mutahhara, Another sentence came. For them, in it are pure or clean spouses. Pure and clean spouses. Again, this is a jumla ismiya now. Jumla ismiya. Okay. And what is the purpose of this jumla now? This is fi mahalli nasbin naat number 2 li jannatin. So naat number 1 was that rivers flow under it, okay, under these gardens. And naat number 2 is that in it, meaning in the gardens, there will be pure spouses for them. Okay, so that is also in naat number 2. Again, we cannot say matuf because there is no harfat used here. And then it says وَنُدْخِلُهُمْ ظِلًّا ظَلِيلًا. Okay, and we will enter them into. Okay, Zullan is basically a shade, and Zalilan is basically a nath to it, which is the translation typically is done as a cool and a deepening shade. Okay, a cool and deepening shade. Okay, so there's a waw, again harf atf, and this whole jumla failure. Okay, this is fi. Sorry, we have to say. Because it is atf, so we have to say ma'tuf. Ma'tufun ala nudkhiluhum. Nudkhiluhum. Okay, which is which one? Let me zoom out a little bit so I can actually. This is nudkhiluhum. This one. So this jumla is ma'tuf to the previous jumla, and what was the i'rab of that? Fi mahalli raf'in. So this we will say is also fi mahalli raf'in. So just wanted to share with you kind of the structure that you can find. Of course, in the case of Arab dictionary, you will find that they do all of that with words. Okay, and I've tried to draw it by showing you by grouping the different sections and showing you how they are related. Okay, and but this is, I mean, this is not even a very long ayah. Okay, but this is how the structure is, and which is then described in the Arab dictionary with words. Sometimes it can be confusing, so you just have to kind of read it a little bit carefully to understand exactly what's connected with what, and what is the nath for what, and what is the badal for what, and what is the where does the Silatul Mawsul end, where does the next part begin, all those things. And the Arab dictionary will help with all of that. Okay. Brother Kamal, you have a question, please go ahead.
Brother Said, can we describe Khalidina Fiha Abada as Jumla Etraziya?
But it's not a Jumla.
Okay.
It's not a Jumla. It is not a complete Jumla, actually. The literal translation in English is livers, not the body part liver, but livers in it forever. Liver as in to live. Okay, I'm creating a new word in English language. Okay, khalada means to live. Okay, Khalid is the one who lives, or maybe the better English will be Khalidina fiha abada, the ones who live in it forever. The ones who live in it forever. It's not a complete sentence.
So,
Okay.
so what is it if it's not a jumla and jumla finishes tajri min tahtil al-anhar? So what is this Khalidina fiha abada? How will describe these three words?
Very good question. It is actually Khalidina is actually hal for for the hum in nudkhiluhum. Okay, because remember, hal can come as a singular word. Hal can come as a singular word. So khalidina is a hal for hum, and then fiha is just jar majroor, and abada is zarf.
Okay.
Okay, so they are all connected with the sentence which is nudkhiluhum jannatin. Okay, and the main relationship is with khalidina as hal back to hum being sahibul hal, and then fiha is jar majroor mutaalliq khalidina. Fiha will be mutaalliq jannat, and then abada is just zarf, forever.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Brother Khalid, please go ahead.
Yes, Bro Zaid, your illustration here, this has helped me understand the actual concept of la muhalla min al-i'rab. So if you can't find a relationship of a sentence to the overall, the scheme of the sentences, it becomes la mahalla min al-i'rab, right? If you can find relationship because of anything, like it could be a badal or atf,
Correct.
or
Correct.
so if there is an established relationship, then you say that yes, it has a mahal in the i'rab. If you can't find any relationship and it's just for the purpose of explanation or for anything, any extra purpose, it falls into that category of la mahalla.
Correct. It all goes back to that. When we say relationship, it all goes back to a singular word. Because the foundation of all the Arab are the singular word Arab. Everywhere you see, every single Arab that we have learned is always been based on a singular word. Okay, mubtada as a singular word, khabar as a singular word, mafulun bihi as a singular word. Okay, badal as a singular word. All of them we have learned. Hal as a singular word. Tamyiz as all of them we have learned as singular word Arab. Okay, that's the foundation. On top of that, then they build the Arab of the sentences. And what simplification that I have in my mind is that is a sentence has an equivalent singular word, same Arab. If it doesn't, no Arab.
So basically, the template are those basic sentences, jumla fi'liya or jumla ismiya.
Correct.
So everything must fit in that template.
Yes, correct. 100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah. But Nisar, please go ahead.
Brother Zahid, now this Khalidina fiha abada is now become jumla ismiya, is that this?
No, it's it is not a jumla.
Now I have a confusion now. We just learned there are two types: la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, la mahalla min al-i'rab. Now we have the third type, which is khalidina fiha abada.
No. So sorry. I think so. I mean, for that mahalla laha min al-i'rab and la min al-i'rab, it's all been discussed in the context of being sentence. Khalidina fiha abada is not even a sentence. Think of it as a singular word hal. Okay, and then with that singular word, you have some other words, but they don't still make up the complete sentence. Okay, so if I were to say this sentence as "Sanudkhiluhum jannatin khalidina fiha abada." Okay, so now I am simply saying that I'm describing you the hal of the people who are going to be entered into the jannat. That the fact that they will be living in it forever, and the way I'm describing the hal is with a singular word khalidina. And we can see it is mansoob. Hal is always mansoob and khalidina is mansoob. So it's a singular word. Okay, and then
I understand, but still the confusion is now it has to belong somewhere. Because now we say it's not a jumla, and it's not a jumla fi'liya, jumla ismiya. It's just a sentence hanging around which does not come into category of la mahalla laha i'rab or mahalla.
No. I think, Brother Nisar, what's causing the confusion is because for the last 2 weeks we have been talking about the Arabul Jumal, that but we have to go back to the singular word Arab now. The things that we learned before we started looking at the Arab of the Jumal. Singular word Arab, as per the rules for hal, are that a hal can come as a singular word. Okay, for example, if I say Ja al Masjid, Zahaba il al Masjidi mutaakhiran, or Ja'a بيتي متأخرا. متأخرا actually is a hal, singular word, and we know the i'rab for that. It is basically it is mansub. What is confusing us in this case is that this khalidina fiha abada, it looks like it's a complete sentence, but it is not. It is not a sentence. Because it's not a sentence, all the discussion that we had about the laha min arab and la marhala min al arab, it doesn't apply to khalidina fiha because it's not a sentence. It is a combination of three words which do not make up a sentence. So those three words need to be analyzed on their own, without classifying them as a sentence unit. Okay, so just think of khalidina as a word on its own, coming as a hal. Fiha is just jar majrur muta'alliq jannat, and abada is a zarf which says forever.
Yeah, okay, then we have to read it. Tajri min tahati al-anharu khalidina fiha abada. And the first part is Jumla fi'liya fi mali that's been not with jannat. And then the khalidin is a hal and fiha is jarum majrur, abda is a zarf.
Zarf, correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so
Yeah.
that's one. So because there's a line separately right now, it looks to be the
Yeah, actually, you're right. You're right. I think what's
Yeah.
causing is part of, I guess, my fault that because I was trying to break it down.
No, I understand now.
Yeah. Maybe the line should have gone all the way up at the same level as Sanudkhiluhum Jannatin. At that level, maybe I should have drawn Khalidina Fiha and then come back down for Lahum Fiha Azwajun Mutahhara, because Khalidina Fiha is not a complete sentence by itself.
Yes. Shazakallah. Now
Okay. But Shakil, please go ahead.
Just continuing the same discussion. Actually, if we say wasala hamidun and wasala hamidun, and then we add some hal, for example, bakiyan. So we need to identify that this hal is attached to whom? It is attached to Hamid. Similarly, here Khalidin is attached to whom, as you said earlier, and that is whom. Okay, so this Khalidin is attached with something. It's just not like there is no relation. There is a relation that who will be Khalid, or
whose hal is being described basically. Whose hal is being described.
Exactly, whose hal is. So it is always related with some original sentence. That's the number one point. And the second point, I'm repeating that point again, that we are discussing the i'rab of jumla. So if you go to any i'rab dictionary, for example, Yaqut dictionary, Dr. Saab always describe it that the al-jumla, the first thing will be al-jumla, mahallu min al-i'rab or la mahalla min al-i'rab. So he starts the sentence al-jumla. So it is important that is it a phrase or hal or some participle, or it is a complete sentence. If we are describing the complete sentence, then we categorize it whether it is fi mahall i'rab or la mahalla.
Yeah. Well, Khalid, so Suhail, please go ahead.
Yes, brother. My question is that you said that Khalidina fiha abada is not a sentence. Okay, agreed. And you said that it is a composition of three words. It's a compound of three words. Okay. So, how do we, looking at it, how do we identify it by the rules of sentence? What is the process of elimination? For example, find Khalidina, it's mansoob, it cannot, for example, mubtada, but like fiha abada, like, person could just look at the sentence and you could probably be looking at, okay, jar majroor, shibu jumla, okay, abada, is it like mabni? So like how, because the first thing you need to ascertain is that it's not a sentence. Once you know it's not a sentence, then you can obviously say that, okay, fine. It could be la mahala min al-arab, or it could be like a nath, or it could be a hal, or something like that. But
yeah. So I think it helps by knowing the meaning of these words, because if you know the meanings of these words, without actually even knowing some of these relationships, sometimes you can actually start to see whether this is a sentence or not. So Khalidina, the ones who live, fiha, in it, forever. So even if I had to say that in English, I can establish that, oh, you know what, this is not a sentence. So what's going on here? Is there something mahzoof that I need to do a taqdiruhu? Or is it that it's not a jumla, so the i'rab of the juml doesn't apply? So I think that, so the meaning can actually help in that case. And and then if the meanings are not known, of course dictionary can help. But and then especially the Arab dictionary will then come in, and and if you check that in the case of Quran, it will then establish the right purpose of that, and that's where it will be clear that this is actually not being classified as a jumla. It is a jumla. It is being classified as a single word, series of words which don't make up a jumla. And you can actually make up sentences which, I mean, just simple sentences. For example, if I say, Zahabtu ilal masjidi. Zahabtu ilal masjidi. So I can say, okay, Zahabtu is fail and file. What is this ilal masjidi doing here? I mean, we have seen it repeatedly where we just say jar wa majroor. That's it. Of course, we can say muta'alliq Zahabtu. But I mean, there are words that can come in the sentence whose analysis may just be that it's a jar or a majroor, or it is a zarf. That's it, nothing more. That itself is kind of the Arab, and that's what we are seeing here. There's a hal, there's a jar majroor, and a zarf. Just because they are together doesn't mean that they make up a sentence.
Okay, thank you. Because I was just looking for a telltale signs to say that, okay, it's not a sentence. So yeah, okay, so take those three words in separate and see whether they combine into a sentence or not.
Correct. Yeah. But Khalid, please go ahead. And by the way, you're in the way of everybody's break, by the way.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Khalidina fiha abada is actually is part of the same sentence. Sanudkhiluhum jannatin.
Correct.
Even though this phrase has come after the tajri min tahtiha nahar, but actually it's part of that sentence.
Yeah. So I think I fully acknowledge that I have caused the most confusion. I should have taken this part that I am right now. Maybe I should highlight it. This part.
If you put it in front of
and
jannatin,
actually I should have put it right here.
Exactly.
And then it would have been fine.
And it's a full one sentence.
Yes, correct.
Yes, that is.
Sanudkhiluhum jannatin khalidina fiha abada. If you kind of just want to understand that sentence itself, yes. Yeah. And then remember, when we read the Quran, it is more like this. There is no up and down in there.
So, yeah. So Allah Ta'ala maybe has put, because of different emphasis. But if you put it grammatically, if you put just this part in front of jannatin, it's full one sentence.
Correct. I think in my next version, I'll inshallah put it there, and then it will also help put these two together as well, because one is not one and one is not number two. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Please stay safe. Inshallah, I will talk to you next week.
Jazakallah khair.